Welcome back, South Philly's Dawson Audacy Original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels, Ashlyn, Sullivan, Al Morganti, here with you, recapping a couple of games and getting you ready for a big slate going forward this weekend. The Flyers winning over the Columbus Blue Jackets, a good win, a good team win. Encouraging to see after losing to Utah over the weekend on home ice, another close game. But the biggest news, Sam Ersson back for both of those games. And I think as a whole, I think you can take the stats out of everything. Everyone just wants to know, how does he look? Is he healthy? Is he back to normal Sam Ersson? I think we have the confidence we can say yes to both of those things.
Yeah, Ashlyn, he looks healthy. Moved well, played okay. Columbus didn't offer much competition coming off that road trip, and they weren't good. and the Flyers took full advantage. I thought he was, he got the goal scored on him late. Makes it look worse than it was. But I think more than anything, he just looked comfortable in that. Didn't look like he was afraid to do anything. Went out, challenged, did all that stuff in a couple of games. And the fact that he goes back to back or whatever, that's even more encouraging, that you don't have to worry about, rehabbing it any longer or whatever. I would say there's no more worries about that particular situation. But I do think there's worries about the whole goaltending thing. I guess worries is kind of a odd word to use when it's kind of better than you thought coming into the season. But I really don't know how they're going to navigate this. You've got a starting goaltender who should play a huge majority of the games. And then you have to piece out the other stuff to two goalies that have played above expectations, although those expectations weren't that high, but they played above expectations. And much as you say you want the guys to be around, I really don't know how you keep everybody happy in this situation.
Yeah, I think keeping everyone happy is a great way to put it. But I also think when you look at their development for both of these goaltenders that are obviously in the Flyers organization with Kolosov and Ivan Fedotov, at some point this is hurting them, their development, right? Not getting on the ice enough. And you're already looking at it. It's like there's no way they're going to be able to play enough for their development, and about getting sent down and all these things. I don't know how you resolve this, because sooner or later one of them is going to have to be sent down, because it's going to end up hurting both of them at one point. Well,
you don't want a wide receiver quarterback situation.
Yeah, it is similar to that if you put it into hockey terms.
You don't want somebody coming out and although it's hardly a place of either of the backups to complain, but I could understand if they have an off game. It's like, well, I haven't played
right
forever.
What do you want from me? Yeah,
it's like, or the starting goaltender even saying, well, I'm not getting enough work or whatever. It's a weird dynamic. It's rarely easy with goalies unless you've got the absolute Shesterkin situation in New York or whatever. Unless you've got that, it's never really that easy. And backup goaltenders are truly important. Not just, and it's not just in games. I mean, even if you coach whatever level, it sounds odd, but your backup goaltender becomes really important because you practice with that goaltender, and he has to be sharp at practice to help everybody and to get time and to and to not complain, to be a good teammate. Mm-hmm. And that's a really, really, it's a really tricky thing for a coaching staff to get through that, and for teammates to get through that. The best part of this is, Ersson's like your golden retriever, happy as about anything, right? So it doesn't seem
so easy to be around.
Yeah, really easy to go around. I don't know, if being a backup for those other two is going to be that easy to, we've already seen with Kolosov, didn't want to be here. He wasn't playing. Oh, he saw Fedotov in front of him or whatever. So this is going to be, it's going to be an interesting way to hit the holiday season.
It is. And I understand, of course, neither of them want to be set down. And we're hearing all the reports and the rumors of Kolosov. If he gets sent down, he doesn't want to play here anymore. And I get that. And of course, no one wants to be sent down. But I think if you're the Flyers organization, and we talk about this a lot, just the state of the NHL, the state of sports in general, at some point you can't allow someone in their 20s, someone early in their career, to dictate what an organization is doing. It's crazy to think about that in that term.
Yeah, it is. But On the other hand, if you're clearly outplaying somebody, it's really difficult to say, well, because of money or whatever, we're sending you down. It's like, well, I thought whoever played better plays. That's that's what we're told here. So I can see where, but the problem then becomes, how do you see how they're playing if they're not playing? That's the issue. It's like, how do you know? And in the best situation, it's like, okay, we'll go back-to-back games will be an issue there. I think eventually one of these two is going to have to get at least some playing time to go down and get some playing time. And I don't know the logistics of the salary situation. It gets really tricky. I mean, Fedotov makes a pretty good chunk of money. So we'll see what they finally agree upon or go to. And goaltending is not that case like defensemen where there's going to be injuries here and then. We saw one with Ersson, but generally it's not going to be like that. So that's for the goaltending coach and the coaches to kind of get through. And I guess just for management to talk to these players and explain everything that's going on and how are they going to go about it. I would want to plan if I was one of those goaltenders on what's going on.
Oh, yeah. This is your life, your future, everything, your career. So it's really curious how this is all going to shake out. I feel like we've been talking about this for 3 weeks saying it's going to come and the answer's going to come. And
here it is.
Still hasn't. So we're still waiting on that. But an answer, there's a lot of questions right now with this Flyers team. It's because of the inconsistency, I think. I think you look at the 3-game losing streak they were just on, and we talked about it pregame in Columbus. If they lose that game in Columbus, they're at the complete bottom of the Metro. But then you win in Columbus and you're in a second wild card spot and you're feeling good about yourself again. It's like this constant roller coaster. And that is so Morgan Frost, especially this season, but really, really his time in Philadelphia. I mean, this is why he'll drive you nuts, because his past 2 games, he's been excellent. And now you're sitting here again because we've done this now 4 times. Is he for real, or is this just another phase?
Yeah, the plus on this, if there is a bigger plus for Morgan Frost, is the way Tortorella talked about him after the Columbus game, and the fact that he had that horrendous giveaway the previous game in a goal that really buried him. They could have made a comeback. But the fact that when Tortorella starts talking about your play away from the puck along the boards, not that he's going to knock anybody over, but he's going to win a battle, or he's just going to battle. And I think that was the bigger plus. And the other big plus that tells you maybe this time it's going to stick is the line's playing well that he's on. I mean, Tippett's going. I mean, obviously Michkov is good. There's some guys that are going here. And boy, you don't want to slip out of that situation the way things are going right now. So, I mean, there's a couple of things that tell you this could be different. And we've been fooled. You know what? We've been fooled before, but not really. Because each time we said, we'll see if this continues, we'll see if this goes on. The difference here is to come off a game with a mistake, back in the lineup, and then have the coach compliment you on stuff, not just the goal, or your pretty goal or your pretty assist, but what you did when you didn't have the puck. That's the difference. And that's why I think that this could be the staple that gets him to stay here, to stay up with the team, to stay with the Flyers organization.
Yeah, that's the hope. And I mean, it was at one point he was playing himself into a trade, and we thought that was a big possibility. But now you have Torts talking about Frost's line being the most successful, and they're keeping the lines the same the past couple of games. And I think if Morgan can keep playing the way he is, you're starting to depend on that line. You're starting to depend on that line for consistency. So it's interesting. Just every week is something different, and it's a total whirlwind of no one's going to know what to expect with him.
No, and he continues to be one of the very popular player because of his skill set to go in. And much as you might be afraid when he's going to make a mistake or whatever, if you're at the game against Detroit on Thursday, if you're in the stadium, if you're in the arena, and he gets the puck, you think good things are going to happen. You've seen it before. So you just think good things are going to happen. So, and the other thing is, if he continues to play well as they go toward the end of the season and that trade deadline comes up, he's a guy that could draw a lot of interest and really get you something. So, I mean, there's a lot of upside for Frost here.
It really is. And I think with Morgan Frost, it's always going to be in that conversation. It feels like every trade deadline, he's a big part of it. Rasmus Ristolainen. I think Joel Farabee is going to be a big topic with the trade discussion as well, where it would make sense most likely to move one of them if the Flyers are saying, we're looking towards the future. So it's going to be interesting if they keep this the same or what's going to happen with that. But one person that definitely is going nowhere is Matvei Michkov. He's been unreal. I mean, leads all rookies in basically every stat. We saw when he left the game against Utah for what we all love, sticking up for himself, and he signs the water bottle to the fan that's speaking Russian to him. This guy just gets it. And he turns 20, so he's no longer a teenager.
He's no longer a teenager. And one more year to go before he can really go out on the town, right? But he's he's a character, and you can tell the players really like playing with him. You just watch on the bench, despite the language barrier, he's always yapping about something.
He is. I'm like, do they know what he's saying?
I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is it's animated. And he's really animated to the players on the ice. He's getting under people's skin on the ice, and they're going at him, and it's causing all kinds of all kinds of issues in terms of bumping people, a little tap afterwards, a slap against the back of the legs with the stick. There's all that stuff. I mean, I mentioned on the post game when they said Danny Briere was smiling somewhere because, he was a little player that had a nasty, nasty attitude. And I think you're seeing this with this guy. People, in Boston, McAvoy charging after him because he's kind of speared McAvoy in the chest, not a real big spear, but just to push himself away. He used the blade of his stick to do that. And it's like, oh my God, he's doing this to a guy 3 times his size. Yeah. He's not afraid. And although his teammates come to his rescue, quote, rescue, whatever, he'll just go right at you anyway. I mean, just you do anything to him, he's gonna stand his own ground. So it's a you know what it is? It's a real added value to what you thought you were getting. Like, obviously, skill level, terrific passer, and now he's starting to shoot. He's got all these talents. The added value is he's got an attitude. And that is that's something that's going to endear him even further into Philadelphia sports culture.
Right. And I think we did see that. I felt like a lot of players, specifically someone like an Owen Tippett, where you don't necessarily see him drop the gloves a ton, going to Michkov's rescue. And I thought it was important eventually, and we saw this coming. We saw this brewing, that Michkov was going to have to fight his own battles, because what you didn't want it to turn into was this guy was poking and starting fights, but they couldn't back it up. So I think we always saw this in him. But at some point, I felt like it was important that Michkov kind of held his own in this. Oh, yeah. You don't want to be the guy. You don't want to be like back in the day, Keith Jones always relying on Craig Berube to come in. Eventually, you gotta stand up for yourself and let it go. And that earns points with your teammates. But if you're Tippett or whoever happens to be on Michkov's line or on that power play, it's like, don't mess with him. This guy's my meal ticket. He's gonna set me up for like 10 more goals. Yeah, so don't mess with this guy. Absolutely. And one guy that is staying healthy since his return, which has been encouraging, is Jamie Drysdale, and a guy that there's been so much talk of what he's going to become. And unfortunately for Jamie, I think we see this with most teams. There's one guy that just has the label that he can never stay available. And I think Jamie was getting close to that label, and you hope, you knock on wood, he can stay on the ice, because what he brings is so impactful. Torts has been adamant, and every time we talk to Jamie, it's focusing offensively, getting up the ice, being a rover, being a shark, all those things you got to think a player loves to hear.
Yeah, he wants him to be a rover. You know what, when he talked after his first game back, he wouldn't answer questions about, what took so long. It was like, oh, well, I don't want to go there, basically. My reading on it is he felt like he might have been ready, but the team was doing well. Mm-hmm. So although you're a team, and they always talk about their team chemistry and how good their locker room is, if you're Jamie Drysdale and you came in and high expectations, especially offensively, and you're watching, and this kid Andre comes on the ice, and he's all over the place, and people are raving about his offensive game. He's actually in front of the net for screens on shots, surfs well, as they say, comes up, not afraid to push the play, which is everything that Tortorella's been asking. And you're Jamie Drysdale, and you're not in the lineup. You're like, when you get back, what are you going to do? Well, to me, you're going to start, you really in your mind is going to be, well, I can do that better. I want that power play spot. I'm the guy that's supposed to be getting all that opportunity, get that ice time. In hockey, more than any other sport, it's when you want to punish somebody, not take away what you take ice. It's just ice time. You got to get ice time. You got to earn that power plays where you get your points. And it's not a bad thing to have competitions. I'm really curious how this whole situation on defense is going to turn out. I mean, it looks like he's on a nice pair now. So, I mean, you want to break that up, but you have Zamula that has to play. So, I mean, or should play. We'll see what happens with him. But, I mean, this is another situation where it's not elite level guys at this point, but it's development guys. And that becomes a real key thing on how do we manage the ice time in their development? Can have a guy sit for a long time? Or do we know now that this guy's in every single night, all this ice time, we don't have to worry about it? And, you never bake in injury, but on defense, you can pretty much bake in that there's going to be opportunity because of injury. But when's the last time we saw Johnson? I mean, when you've got healthy guys, it's now he's a veteran. He knows his role here. Whatever happens, I'm happy to be here and I'll fill in where. But if you're a young player, that dog don't hunt. You got to get ice time.
Yeah. And I think this season more than we've seen the past couple of years, they have faced that issue of how do we divvy up this time, which if you look at the grand scheme of things is a great problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have unless you're the guy not in the lineup. If you're the guy if you're the guy eating popcorn in the press box, that's not a good situation. So we'll see how it goes. But given their druthers, and don't forget, much as it's all what you did for me in a game, if you were traded, Drysdale for a guy that's going to be a really good young player, you really want this guy to shine. And I think if you're management, you want him to get every opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's got to prove himself, that's for sure. And the Flyers, they got to prove themselves back to their winning ways. They've won one game against Columbus to snap that 3-game losing streak, but a big couple of games coming up on Thursday and on Saturday as well. So we'll recap those games early next week. Thank you for tuning into South Philly Sauce and Audacy Original. Hi, Doggy, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. We'll see you on Monday.